All right, everyone. So Garrett Wilson just went off on Stephen A. Smith. So this is what Garrett Wilson said. Damn, you got to be a real sellout. Above all, a square to be on ESPN nowadays. Used to love that show. So this is what he was responding to. We're going to show you the clip
About
here
this.
from
Two,
First Take. All right, let's listen. We'll react.
two. Number two, let me say this, and I'm damn near serious about this. I'd eat something to provoke myself to have food poisoning where I'm like garbage before I'd play for the Jets. I'm telling you right now, whatever I could do to be alive and be okay in the end, but to ruin their thoughts of ever wanting me on their roster, I would do. And damn it, I'd go back to college before I play for the Jets. They are a football atrocity. They are awful. I mean, straight garbage. I am a black man that is consistently pushing for opportunities for black coaches throughout the years. I have done that. It's gotten a lot better than it was in the past. And I'm saying it hurts me to say this, okay? Ain't no way in hell Aaron Glenn should still be the head coach of the New York Jets. They were horrible and digressed, damn near nosedive. We talk about Alabama waving the red flag. Was it red flag? White flag. White flag. White flag. Okay, white and red. Damn it. Listen, in New York is the green and white. You understand? 5 minutes.
So this is what Garrett Wilson is obviously focusing on, right? The stuff Stephen A. Smith is saying about I would do anything not to be on the Jets. And I can understand why Garrett Wilson is so upset about this. Now, listen, I understand a lot of this is, it's an entertainment business, right? And so it's a funny clip, right? It's certainly something where he's like I said, it's entertaining, right? And I completely get that. But I understand why Garrett Wilson is mad because I do think this has been one of the mentalities in sports that is really ridiculous, right? In my opinion, terrible, which is, oh, this team is bad. This organization's bad. I'm going to do whatever I can not to go there. That's such, in my opinion, a loser mentality, right? You look at through the years, kind of players that come into a situation and how they're able to turn around a franchise, right? You have a franchise that's viewed one way and, because of a player that comes in, right, he's able to kind of turn the whole thing, or a team that is able to overcome, a dysfunctional franchise. It's not impossible for it to happen, especially when you're at the QB position. And I think when you look at the Jets, one of my biggest issues when I look at the last few seasons is that there's nothing that the Jets have done necessarily that the people on TV weren't also pushing for, right? When they moved off of Aaron Rodgers, a lot of people on TV were saying, oh, that was a great move. When they decided to fire Robert Saleh in the beginning of the year, right, when Aaron Rodgers was still healthy, there was a lot of people on TV that were pushing for that and happy to see that happen, right? This is my problem with some in the media, is that it seems like the media can say whatever they want, right? And they view something a certain way, just like a coach does or an organization does. But when the thing that they were predicting wasn't going to happen happens, they pretend, oh, we didn't have that opinion, right? And actually, it's just this dysfunctional franchise. And I just think that's ridiculous, right? And don't get me wrong, there's organizations, you look at the Browns, who, yeah, that's a bad franchise, okay? And there's been a lot of careers that maybe could have been better had they not gone there. I also completely understand with Sam Darnold and Geno Smith, people have changed their mind a little bit on, maybe just how bad the Jets organization may be. But it wasn't just the Jets organization that was holding Sam Darnold back. It wasn't just the Jets organization that was holding Geno Smith back. I think there was other things there as well. Okay.
And the whole crew, the people that have passed away root for the Jets. There are people that passed away root for the Jets. They are horrible, okay? And they are the place to go if you want to sink, if you want to dissipate, if you want to just rot away. They are horrible. I wouldn't listen, if I was a parent, my child wouldn't even go to the draft. I'm not playing. I'm not playing. You cannot. And then Woody Johnson comes in there, right? First of all, he had no business being some ambassador to the UK. But as bad as that was, he should go back. He should go back. He's called Trump administration, go back to UK. We don't want to see him in New York. He's horrible. Woody Johnson's horrible, okay? You go up there and you fire Robert Saleh, all right? You alienate Aaron Rodgers, and we get that because, damn it, Nathaniel Hackett shouldn't even been on the damn roster as an offensive coordinator. We know that, okay? Got all of that, all right? Then you go out there and you hire this man. You have the kind of year that you had. You had the kind of month you had. Aaron Glenn had 41 interceptions in his career, 6 pick sixes, and he was the defensive coordinator in Detroit. And this man's defense didn't record 1 interception the entire year. The only team in the NFL history to have done that. That's on him. We saw the Detroit Pistons.
But this is part of what we were saying earlier is like, this is the process the Jets have gone through to why they've been a bad franchise, because they've overreacted to things, right? You have to trust the process. I understand the results weren't where they needed to be this year and things were bad. I get all of that. But if you trusted Aaron Glenn when you sat there in those interviews with him, that he could turn around the franchise, you can't just say, well, first year's bad, that means we're done. That's not how it's supposed to work. I don't care how bad it looks, right? As we always say in this channel, in football, when it rains, it pours. Meaning when things go wrong, they go really wrong. All right. And so I just think when I'm thinking about what Garrett Wilson's saying, I completely understand why he would feel the way he does about this, because it is a situation. Once again, I understand this is entertainment. Okay. And Stephen A is making his point, but in an entertaining fashion. But if I was somebody who, was on the Jets, I'd feel the same way. You're saying that our organization can't win games. You're saying that we're going to destroy every quarterback that comes here. If you're a player in that team, you're not going to be too happy about that. And once again, I get the history here. But to me, if I'm the Jets, right, and I'm looking at, okay, forget our history, right, what we've done and the mistakes we've made. We're trying to move forward. You don't want to repeat those same mistakes.
Who was the offensive coordinator to Detroit Lions? Who was the offensive coordinator? It was Ben Johnson.
Ben Johnson.
So really, was it because of you and that defense, or was it because of Ben Johnson and what he was doing in concert with Dan Campbell? Okay, it was.
Ben Johnson walked onto a team that had Caleb Williams, right, who was one of the most hyped draft prospects we've seen in quite some time. I understand he wasn't great last year with, the coach. I'm forgetting his name now, but the coach that the Bears had. I understand, right, that he wasn't great last season. He also wasn't horrible last year. A lot of the talent you saw on that team, right, took a step up this year. I get all of that. But if you look at the Bears offense, this wasn't, the Chiefs from a few years ago, right, where they were just setting the world on fire. The Bears won a lot of close games. And yes, Ben Johnson gets credit for that. I think he's done a great job coaching this team up. But we have to put it into context of the Jets did not have that type of roster, right? The Jets, the probably the most important position in football, the QB position, they had Justin Fields, they had Tyrod Taylor. And now they got a third string guy. So you can't compare the two, right? And I hate how it's this constant, what's going to happen if next year things go sideways for the Bears and the Jets look a little bit better? Is this take going to be flipped on its head where it's like, oh, actually, maybe the Lions were good because of how good Aaron Glenn is? It's like things aren't always absolutes, right? Things aren't always, it was because of this one thing, and that because Aaron Glenn had a bad first season with the Jets, therefore he is not a good coach, and the Jets are just the worst franchise ever, and that's the reason the Lions were a success, had nothing to do with Aaron Glenn. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Your ass. It was you. The bottom line is this. I don't wish him. I want the man to have a job. I want him to be employed, just not as a head coach for the New York Jets. The fact that you said with a straight face after this season, we going to keep this man as a coach, shows me that Woody Johnson don't know what the hell he's doing. I'm not letting my child. If he was my brother, I wouldn't let him. If he was my nephew, I wouldn't let him. I don't give a damn what it is. If you got to poison this food, if you got to do something to prevent him from being a New York Jet, you do it.
Guy.
You do it.
Last year.
So, look, I understand why Garrett Wilson's mad about this, and I get the entertainment value of it, and I do understand why people think this way, because it is true, right? Organizations impact the success of players. I get it. But if I'm an athlete and I'm like, you know what? I'm the dude, right? I'm the guy who is a franchise player. You think you can overcome a lot of this. I mean, even look at someone like Joe Burrow, and I know he's dealt with injuries that has kind of plagued, his last few years. But the truth of the matter is, if you look at Joe Burrow, is the Bengals are not a great franchise, but when he's healthy, they're pretty good. right? I mean, what was it? His first season, I think, or first or second year that they made the Super Bowl. He's pretty good. So it can happen if you are that guy. And I just think if the Jets do end up, and it seems like they are, sticking with Aaron Glenn, I think that's a positive step for this organization. The problem with this organization, right, has been, in my view, decisions that were made too hastily, right? Decisions that were made without fully thinking things through. Firing Robert Saleh during the season when you're like, wait a minute, we didn't even get to see what the Aaron Rodgers experience could be because we fired him so quickly, right? And obviously I understand Saleh had been the coach for a few years, but what I'm saying is if you bring in Aaron Rodgers and the first year he plays like what, 3 snaps, and then in the second year you fire him 4 or 5 weeks in, you're not really giving that any chance to succeed. And I think that that's actually a good way to look at it. Of we're going to actually stick with the plan here, right? We thought Aaron Glenn was the guy. We're going to see if he's the guy. We're not going to jump off the ship just because we had a rough first season. And I want people to remember this segment too, and what Garrett Wilson is saying here, right? And why I want people to remember this is because on one hand, look, Garrett Wilson, if you're sticking up for the Jets the way you are, I want to see next season you take on a leadership role as one of the best players on this team. Get in that locker room and start telling guys, look, it's a new era for the New York Jets. Last season was so bad, we ain't doing it anymore, right? And for First Take, right? I mean, this is now, if Aaron Glenn becomes a success, I don't want to hear from people, oh, how bad of an organization the Jets are. I better hear compliments about, hey, the Jets stuck this thing through and it paid off, right? In all of this. Or if one of these guys goes and turn around the franchise, I don't want to hear this kind of stuff anymore, because it's one of those things where it's like the media, and this is including something we try to do on this channel, where the media just has it both ways, right? The media is able to pontificate and say anything they want about a subject, even if they're in agreement with what an organization does, a player does, a coach does. And then when that thing that they were supporting at one point goes wrong, they put the blame on the coach or the player and never kind of look internally and say, hey, but we actually thought the same thing about that, right? We were feeling the same way. So just keep that in mind. And listen, Garrett Wilson, there's one way you shut everybody up, and that is next season, go out and ball, right? You are the best player on the offensive end of the field for them. Go ahead and do it. Thank you all for watching, and we'll see you next time.